I'm Jim Zudaway, author of the Legion of Nothing series. This is an excerpt from the Legion of Nothing Rebirth. That's Volume 1. Lunch tray in my hands, I walked toward the table where Cassie sat. It was on the other side of the cafeteria from where I usually sat, and just a few tables away from Kayla and the girls Cassie generally ate with. Kayla glanced in our direction as I sat down. "You got my note," Cassie said brightly. I had. It had come in the form of a paper airplane to the back of my head during our only shared class, government. "You've got good aim," I said. "Looks like you made national news last night." She put a printout on the table, headlined, "The Rocket Returns?" An Associated Press article gave a brief description of the incident and went on to speculate about whether it was the 1940s-era rocket or a new one, including a quote from a superhero historian who said, "But if he is the same person, he has to be in his 80s or 90s. Where did you find that? Yahoo's got a section for superhero news, and besides, it's been on the local news all morning. Don't you listen to the radio? Not this morning." I eyed my lunch. In honor of the year's first football game, the hamburger had been renamed the Central High Burger, dyed blue, and placed on a yellow bun. I suppose that I should be thankful our school colors weren't orange and green. I took a bite. It tasted normal. "So," I said, "how did things go for you?" She grinned. "Boring at first, but remember Syndicate L? We found them. They're here in Grand Lake." "Where and how do you know?" "Daniel," she said. "They've got an old warehouse out in town. He happened to pick up something from the mind of a truck driver making a delivery." "Did you tell his dad?" She rolled her eyes. "Of course not. We're going to do this ourselves. And by we," she said, "I'd like to include you." I nearly spat out my burger. It's not that I was surprised. I could hardly be surprised, since she'd been going on about this for a while now. But at our level of skill, I thought we shouldn't be taking on organized crime. We should be taking down muggers and working our way up. She didn't wait for me to reply. "I know you've got mixed feelings about this, and I know we're not experienced, but we're not going in without a plan. Daniel found out that something big is coming in tonight, and it's not legal. Fortunately, they're not guarding it with much. 10 people, maybe? Normal people? We can take them. Then we call the police." "And if you can't handle them," I said, "then we call Daniel's dad, or maybe even Larry." Larry was better known as the Rhino. He was a nationally recognized hero, though less because of his powers and more because of his nationally branded beer. It wasn't that he wasn't tough, he was just better known for his portrait on the bottle and an over-the-top Super Bowl ad than he was for any villain he'd ever fought. "I don't know," I said. "You don't know?" She put her hands on the table as if she were about to stand up and leave, but didn't. "I wasn't going to do this," she said, "but Daniel tells me that whatever is going on with you is because you feel like I'm making you do this. I'm not making you. You started training with Lee 5 years ago. You were working with your grandfather longer than that. Whether or not you intended to, you've been preparing longer than anyone but Daniel, and he's had power since birth." I opened my mouth to interrupt. It wasn't her, not really. If anyone had pushed me, it was my grandfather. "No," she said, "don't say anything. Just think about it. You could have done anything last night after we left, but instead," she lowered her voice, "you went out for a run, in costume. What does that tell you? You want to do this too. That's what. You—" She looked up at the clock in the middle of the lunchroom wall. "I've got 5 minutes to eat all this stuff." She gestured to the tray in front of her. It held at least 3 trays worth of food. "I've got a fast metabolism," she said.